So first of all, I just want to say thank you, God. Thank you, God, and give me strength till my last breath. It's gonna be terrible. It's gonna be horrible, but I can honestly say that I've seen what life could have been. I could have seen what life could have been in this indignified way. I know what I say sounds very spiritual, and I have to. I have to because what the horrible things I'm going to go through cannot counter what I'm going to say and how people have to dumb themselves down. Because at this point, I don't only speak. You've noticed the difference between my earlier videos to these videos. What I've added to these videos is this reality that people are trying to counter. Okay, so first of all, let me just start off. You see the picture here. You cannot have any doubt that these people are children. The reason why, and this is a picture from 12 to 14. This is a range of kids around that age, from 12 years old to 14 years old. And I do that on purpose because today, as I'm being manipulated, however I'm being manipulated, what they do is we are making you experience what you experience at that age. We're mapping. So what's happening today when I see little toddlers, little girls especially, and not only kids, but usually little kids of like toddlers, little girls, and they do that to all kids, from the youngest to the oldest, right? Kids. A lot of it is like to try to convince me that what we're doing to you is just, we've seen you experience that before when you were a kid, right? So we have been mining your experiences throughout your life and bringing it up. Now, first of all, that alone just should give you an indication that you are saying that you're making me think or experience things that I've experienced, but as young as me, as 12 or even younger. This is not even the youngest. Some of it talk about like 10 years old. We're talking about very, very young. Third grade-ish, like 8 years old too. Now, for me, it's just like, why do I keep doing these things? It's because I want them to just consume what I'm saying. Now listen, what's going to happen to me is nothing that can change what's going to happen to me because I've understood what this is about. You think that there's people who are here trying to make me think, or they are here thinking about, let's look at his childhood and how his child was thinking. Nobody, of course, there's no benefit of that, of course. You think there's millions of dollars of funding just try to find, we're gonna think about, look at somebody's childhood and how this thought went away. Well, obviously childhood is childhood. We know that a developing brain of a child is not the same as an adult. But on top of that, you get validated. In my brain, no, we're doing this study, we're trying to figure out. It's so embarrassing, especially at this point. It is so humiliating. It's almost magically humiliating. It's magically humiliating because thanks to the internet and all the ways we're able to connect with each other, this validation that is this validation of also, because testimonials are on YouTube now, targeting video, the trickeries and the manipulations that we experience are supposed to be sold to us as if it should make sense to us. I've grown as men and women, and the way they talk, I wish I could capture the sounds they make when they talk to me, the tonalities. You would think that these people are like, I'm like, do you understand what you're saying? It's just damn near retarded. And then they try to counter what I'm just heard it. I heard them say this, but tell me, our man is gonna rape you and torture you. I was like, yes, I'm gonna be tortured, but are you saying that now because you just know that I hear you for the retardation of what you just said? Listen, it's no doubt that my brain is being rewired. How do I know that? Well, I know myself. I'm in my late 30s at this point. But this happened to me in 2019 and I was still in my early 30s. By my 30s, I have no doubt of who I am. Thankfully, this didn't happen to me when I was younger. Because that's when maybe and the truth is, especially for men, the reassurance of who we are when you hit 30s, especially in your 30s, you are sure of who you are at this point. You have no doubt of who you are. You're strong. When you start hitting your 30 years old, you start understanding yourself better. You don't have the complexities you had in the past. In your 20s are gone. You finally have a strong understanding of who you are. Some men even younger, but 30, 31, 30, like you've already got a good understanding of who you are. So I'm so thankful that them trying to make me. And first of all, it's just like it's such a drastic of who I am, like change of who I am. That it's just. But on top of that, you do that to me there. I've already been me long enough to know who I am. So you come up, and then all of a sudden, these things happen to me. I obviously know that my brain is no longer mine. I obviously know that things are happening to my brain. That is before I even find validation that this is what they do to people. They are rewiring the thought process. And then to try to, before finding out that they have these tactics and I'm hearing these perps, and let me say something. I don't know if it's the case for all the perps that involve themselves in this program, but for me, you look at these people like, you are such unstable human being. I can see through you. You are really enjoying this because it's filling a void that you have. I can see that it makes you feel empowered. I can truly see through you. Look at you. You also, you see these people talking to you. It's like, oh my gosh, you have created a fantasy of what this is about. You even create a character. Oh, you gonna watch me? That's how they talk to me, right? Via talking. Oh, come watch, gonna torture you. I'll be watching. I'm like, oh my gosh, this trash talking to me is wearing sweatpants and sweaters and this little coward trash. This anger, like it's like in their mind, they are so bottom feeders and they're so weak that they start creating this fantasy like we are war. This is a war. Target individual. Let me just say this. We are what we call target individuals and guinea pigs to these governmental entities. They are doing these things to us to see the best ways to break a human being down. They're using us like with matrices, right, of the different trickeries and deceptive tactics that can be utilized to break a human being. We are basically guinea pigs to them. And so that's why they use these different tactics. These people, that's why you will see perps of all ages and even people more mature and more put together than others. More together than others. It's because they understand, oh, okay, we're doing this. Now, the more childless, there's some of them that can go into the la land of fantasy of what this is about. Creating this fantasy. And really create, for me, it's been this disgusting psyop. Oh, the most disgusting. Now, I ended up in this program where there's men and women being tortured and children because I ended up working for this program. No, sorry, they're messing. You see how hard it is for me to speak. As I ended up working for this company that is very conservative, extremely conservative. And this person put me in this program. Definitely didn't like me. Wanted to get rid of me, and I ended up here. Now I'm one of so many other target individuals. So now I'm a test subject, and they go through this whole process, which they've done to others. Now, as I mentioned earlier on, the organization that put me in this program is very known for how conservative they are. Now, this is not politically based, right? They want men, women, children of all sorts being put in this program. It doesn't matter if you're Republican, conservative, but I can speak of me being put in this program. I was put in this program by a very conservative government, a very conservative private company that spent a lot of money in very conservative ways. That is very, I don't want to say the name of it, but that is very known for how conservative they are. Very, very known. I don't have doubts that they put me in this program. Now, the irony of it all, to try to make me think that they have nothing to do with this, they have put these perps for me. These individuals who we all call perps. You're going to hear a target individual call people perps. Perps are actually individuals involved in this program and are working for these governmental entities. So you have people of all sorts doing things to disorient you, to break you down. They come in all shape and form. There's men, there's women, there's children, there's all kind of people. And their job is to vilify you and paint you in different factions. They are contracted by these governmental entities. We're talking about the DoD. This technology that we're experiencing, this sophistication, it comes from obviously the Department of Defense. There's no doubt. And to hear people who try to make you doubtful, you look at them, it's like, oh, that's not so real. It's just so not real. It's like, please, clown, look at yourself when you say not real, please. And I'm saying that to the Perps who just said that via V2K. So I deal with what you call voice to skull. Voice to skull. Voice to skull is this technology that can pipe in voices into your brain. For me, when that became very obvious that I was going through I was dealing with voice to skull, that day on for me the date, and I will always use that date because for me is a point for me to remember. On that date, my thought process have not been the same ever since. My date, for me, when thoughts were manipulated, things have changed drastically, is on August 19, 2019. From that point, I no longer recognize myself. It's been manipulation, rewiring my thought process, my reactions. Since that day, August 19, 2019, that day, never been me again. If I was manipulated before, it was in a way that is just very subtle. But on that date, it's been some drastic manipulation that really disturbed me. Really, really changed who I am as a person. And so for me, I always say August 19, 2019, and you're going to hear that in my videos. Target visual, if you have a date that you remember that this started, block in that date. Because that's the date when you are no longer yourself. This technology not only destroy your physiology aspect of things, so you get destruction of your organs, your body, your jaw, your bones, your organ, all of that. But there's also V2K and other technology like that. I don't know if it's called EEG or dining or cloning. That at this point they are manipulating your neural system, your neural network. At this point, you are being manipulated in ways that is just drastic. They are changing who you are. You're being controlled almost. We're talking about control of a human being. This is where we go for. I know it sounds crazy, but you're going to hear that this is things they've been working on for a long time. The DoD has been working on this technology for years. For years. And you're going to hear that. At this point, I don't speak just to speak at this point. I'm like, okay. I want them to understand how bottom feeders these people are. Now, for me, what's been happening since August 19, 2019 is been experiencing this disgusting reaction toward these babies. And I'm being forced to give reaction to children, these toddlers, actually all kids, right? But especially the toddlers, the little girls especially. And every time they make me experience that they have this noise campaign that's supposed to intimidate me into accepting this manipulation that they've done to others. But you're going to hear that later on. Not yet. Let me finish what I need to say. And then you hear the foulness that these people are. Okay. For me, the way they want me to accept these current experiences is like, no, but when you were a kid, you experienced this and that, you this. And matter of fact, they bring up a thing I did as a child that I completely forgot as a child. You know, as a kid, the impulsiveness of a child, especially when we're talking about early teenagehood, right? Right before teenagehood or early teenagehood, we're talking about a very bizarre time of a boy, at least, because your testosterone will just go everywhere. So do you have an impulsiveness that's just not something that is normal? So as a kid in 8th grade, right, in 13, 14, I did something to myself that never happened again, ever again, which apparently is common. The reason why I know that is because they were trying to make me think. Of course, I know that this is a kid doing some dumb thing, but I found out the truth is at that age, there's a lot of kids that do things of that nature. Even worse than that. I never do it again. That's part of this impulsiveness of a child. Nah, I'm not here to I'm not a childhood behavior type of but I know reality. I understand. It's like, dude, this is me as a kid. The fact that I don't even remember doing this is just the fact that this didn't even faze me, in the sense that it was not something important to me. Not to say it was not inappropriate. It's just saying, like, if as a child I never thought about it ever again, it means that it was not something that I was thinking about. Well, I did things as a kid, as a teenager, that I thought about all my life. But that moment, never. Now, I'm not here to try to bring the psychology of a children. The reason why I know this is at this point is because I know these people are just trying to make you believe a false reality. Right? Matter of fact, I ended up finding articles saying, at that age, kids don't know, this is part of this. As a child, you should never compare the brain of a child with an adult brain. Kids are at that age, the impulsiveness of children are just things that never happen. That you shouldn't compare to an adult. The brain of a child is of 12, 13, 14, or whatever is still in that developing state. Of course, we all know that. I'm not saying special. You go talk to an 8th grader. Go talk to a 7th grader. Go talk to a 6th grader. You'll know that they're children. Of course, everybody knows that. But here it becomes something else. Because today I'm expressing this nasty reaction toward children, and then they want me to accept this manipulation that, no, what we're doing, we're just been mining this when you're a kid. And what we do is just like making being a child again somehow in your brain. And you should identify to this retardation of the logic we just had. For me, I love saying these things because I want these bottom feeders, these winners, that of course, whatever's going to happen to me is going to still happen to me. But I want them to live this moment, hear me saying these things. I want them to understand what dignity they have now. I don't want them to ever have a sense of respect. If I end up killing myself, it's because I'm being tortured. But you, who have the ability to have a life of dignity, this is what you do. As I'm saying that right now, because I'm saying things, I guess, that is putting things too much in perspective. I'm hearing my neighbors opening the door, and they like to have these disorienting tactics of just to confuse the target individual. So they're making their dog bark, and I can hear them making noise camping, they're throwing things in the trash. Then you hear somebody yelling in the hallways. This is all different ways to disorient you. I'm just saying, I'm so glad that I didn't have to live a life like this. Because apparently what I'm saying is just getting too wise. So because what I did as a child is what I did as a child. They've been trying to find ways to make me accept this and try to create a pattern, because it never happened again. It never happened again when it could have easily happened again. Matter of fact, not only it never happened again, it was completely forgotten about. Now, I'm not saying that what I did as a kid is not something inappropriate. It's just something that was never thought of again. Ever. So they've been trying to create a pattern of it. And then they go back when I'm even young, when I just turned 13 years old. I'm 12, 13. I just turned 13 2 months ago or so. And they try to, at this point, this is not even inappropriate. It's not inappropriate at all. They're just trying to create a different. No, but I remember this kid, and if you look it up, look for Sarah, the story. There was this baby, this 2-3-year-old girl, and she was annoying, but she got big cheeks. I remember kissing. It's like, no, but if you kissed her on the cheek this way, if you could, it's like, shut up, I didn't do this, never happened, but you wish that would happen that way, and they give me sexual stimulation. The thing is, I saw it's like, oh my god, you're so cute. As a 13-year-old, sorry, I turned 13 2 months ago. They tried to create, now, but if you had the opportunities, I did that in front of this kid's father. I was like, oh my god! And I remember the father said, "Oh, he's like, Sarah, you look so cute. You look so cute. You're so cute as you almost ate a boy." And I remember doing that in front of the father, doing the same thing. I'm 13 years old. It's like, no, but if you're alone, you would that? No, we're not. What about kiss more of her cheeks? But you can create that in my head. So now, not only they have to try to talk about me in middle school, in 8th, as a 13, 14, but now they're like, oh no, but when younger, you see, if you were alone, it's like, shut up. Listen to your dumbness. Because what I'm going to bring up is going to be scary. And these pictures that you see is the age they try to say, now we're mad it's around this age, because you're going to hear what they do, these people, what this trash are part of. First of all, what you're going to hear is how they torture children. This program not only does horrible things to men, women, who are adults, but children. Kids, babies, infants, you're going to hear that. 2, you're gonna hear these tactics that are so commonly done to target individuals that are psychological, using this rewiring of the thought process. But then do this pedophilia type of torture. Let me just say this: pedophilia type of torture is not a term that I came up myself. You heard me say that many times, but the reason why I say this way is because somebody else said that. So they have these tactics of forcing people to have reaction toward children. Then you have the clear validation that this technology, this what's happening to you, is coming from, obviously, and you don't have to be a genius to understand this kind of sophistication of technology. It's not coming from your next door neighbors. They might be partaking, they might be involved in it, but you understand, especially if you see who is like really, you want me to think of you. And wherever I've gone, it's like, come on, look at you. Like, you want me to look at you as like you are the one. Like, of course, you are obviously involved in this program. And obviously, this very powerful entities are running this program. You, whatever incentive you get out of it, I've been incentivizing those ways, financial, whatever else you get incentivized. And that this technology that's applied onto me is coming from very, very powerful entities like the Department of Defense. And then when I say the Department of Defense, you're going to hear that they've been working on technology that can manipulate the thoughts and alter the mind since the 60s, even maybe before. But the 60s is when there was like this Project Pandora that was clearly a project where they use electromagnetic frequency and radiation to see if they can alter the mind. But it doesn't even end there. Now the awkward part, because in my mind, the way they're trying to say it now, we see what we're doing, we've been mapping your brain and reminding to you as a child, and we know that you could have been a danger to children. The storyline that come up was like, no, you are literally, and I was like, you just rewind my brain. You're literally conditioning me. Matter of fact, I almost got to the point where I killed myself. Because I was like, I know what you guys doing. It feels like you condition. You not only you're manipulating my brain, but like you're training my brain to think about kids in this way. You're literally rewiring me. I can feel it. It's like I'd rather die. Because I know what you're doing to me. You're not only just manipulating my brain in real time. It's like you're training my brain. You're wanting to condition my brain. That I think about kids. When I think about kids' sex, you are training my brain. You're conditioning my brain. You want me to start thinking about kids in a sexual way. It's not even just making me, like, just to torment me. It's like you're training the brain patterns. You're rewinding my brain in these ways. And I'd rather die than being trained in these ways in my brain to think about kids in sexual way, because this is what they do. They're not just like, they literally are rewiring you. They want you to think kids equals sex. It's become that. They are literally rewiring your brain to think about children in a sexual way. It's no longer just to torment you. They want you to, every time you think about kids, you think about sex. When you think about sex, you think about kids. That's how nasty it is. They are rearranging the way you think, your thinking process. And then they gaslight you after working on rewiring your brain. But you understand these entities that are doing that? Obviously, this is part of how they want to push people to kill themselves or do things that are going to drive them to death. These governmental entities running this program, which in this program you're going to hear how they torture people. You're going to hear a testimony of a woman who talks about, and there's so many other women, right? There's other men, women, and the sexual torture is very common. It's very common. The reason why I'm bringing this new one up is because it came up to me, and you know, there's so I can find so many of them. There's so many of them. There's so many. Like, it's just so easy to hear. But I think this woman, with just her face, just kind of your heart breaks. It's sad. It's really sad. But there's so many of women like that. She's not unique in that sense. I gotta say it. She's not unique, but it's so sad still. I'm not desensitized, and it makes it hard to desensitize. Even though you hear a lot of testimony of sexual torture, some women are very strong. They don't cry. They're like, no, I'm being tortured this way, in sexual way, and they stay strong. I'm like, how do you do this? I gotta say something, and I'm not trying to, but the women target individual, and that's when you know women are the level of strength they have. I don't understand where they get it from. Now, listen, one thing you're going to hear, there's a lot of perps who are women. Very weak trash. There's a lot of female perps. I don't think you should even call them women. Female perps trash. Those are cowardly, weak female trashiness. Don't even have an ounce of this strength that these women have, that I wish I myself can acquire. Losers and trash that come up with fantasies of what they come up with characters in this movie in their mind that like some kind of femme fatale. You're gonna die, you're paper. You're involved in a program that literally burned the genitals of women, of men, and children too. You're gonna hear that. But let me get back to who's running the program here. It's obvious the Department of Defense runs this program. The DoD is the entity that is funding, resourcing, contracting, and obviously involved in the architecting of this program. That and obviously the intelligence community like the CIA. Those two big entities have had a trend that is so disgusting, a pedophilia type of issue that's been ongoing. There's a bill called End National Defense Network Abuse Act, the S1413. If you ever have a question, look for S1413 bill for 2019. You'll see what I'm talking about. Because in 2018 there was a ranking that started happening. The Child Protective Service entity start looking at all the child porn that's being accessed, shared, trafficked in the United States. They start categorizing it by networks. Start putting a category or putting, okay, each network, this is the amount of child porn we're seeing. And there's about 3,000 or so. The real number is 2,891 networks. They noticed that the Department of Defense network, yes, the DoD network, was the 19th out of the 2,891 for the most child porn. And when I mean the DoD network, is like the DoD has their own network. They have their own internet network and computer network. And they were seeing that the child porn was being done only using the network and using the computers provided by the DoD. So the DoD was a top-tier network of child porn trafficking and accessing. We're talking about that same entity right now running a program where they are rewiring and manipulating the brain. Now, this trash here is supposed to be like, no, what we're doing, we're protecting our kids. You see, we're mad at you as a kid while working for governmental entities that have so much issue with child porn and pedophilia that they're even using the computers given to them by the DoD. They're even using the DoD network to download so much child porn that even a child porn protective service ranked them as top tier for child porn trafficking. Now, you add that to it. On top of the validation that you're going to hear that they do this manipulation, part of the way they break your target visual, because this is a weapon unto us. They're using cognitive technology, manipulation of neurotechnology as a weapon. This neurotechnology manipulates the brain to experience reactions that are so disturbing and disorienting and disgusting, and it's very pedophilia-centric, which makes sense. It makes sense if you look at it in a way that is, how can you weaponize the brain? If you want to break somebody down using their brain, what are you going to do? You're going to rearrange their brain to experience disgusting reaction toward children. It's going to be disorienting, disgusting. It's going to be disgusting. And then you're going to try to make that individual believe that, no, it's you. We are mapping to you. It's you. We did something that just, whatever we did, but we did that. It's you. And you have perps around you that we employ to play this theater, to create these theatrics. So for me, what they try to use, like, no, but remember what you did as a kid, at the age of like 13, 14. So toward the end over there, you see. No, remember what you did as a kid there. Yeah, we're mapping to you. Remember what you did as a kid? Yes, as a child who did this impulsive thing as a child is capable of doing. That never happened again. So they try to find ways, okay, let's try to find ways to recreate that and create some version of that. Oh, but when you're 13, remember when the Sarah came, you kissed on the cheek, like that. You see, that you thought, if you were more alone, you could have done this and that's like what? More kisses on the cheeks? It's not real. Now you would do something else. No, you're just making me imagine. This is childhood things. While they're working for governmental entity that does that, and then you validate that they torture children sexually. You're going to hear the testimonies of the sexual torture they do to children. Now, why am I making this video that you've heard so many times before? It's because of this. I'm listening to podcasts. The one thing you're going to listen to about target individuals, they have this ability to rewire reality. And there was this thing said here from a podcast I'm listening to, okay? Listen to this.
A lot of shit a little fucked up. They be with their mom. Moms don't want to watch the child no more. It's a lot of shit that you got to catch at the right moment, nigga. When confidence, you hear the argument in the hallway and they slam the door, catching her. Hey, how you doing? You okay? I got somewhere for you to stay. That's how you catch her. Oh, shit. And I'm telling, I seen it.
It's like where timing meets opportunity, right?
Here we go. Big man.
So you heard her. When timing equals opportunity, or timing or opportunity happen, right? You know how they try to do this? It's like, no. The thing is, what I did to myself as a child happened once. Like, no, it's because the timing opportunity was that. And I was like, listen, if this is something I would have wanted to do, I could have happened multiple times, many times. But it never happened because as a kid, it's just an impulsive act. It was not something that I wanted to do. It was something that happened impulsively and never happen again because the child brain is at that level. When you see this kid, this is what the brain of a child can experience. It's not something calculated. It's nothing. No, it's just whoop. So then they're like, okay, but that time with Sarah, because you see, if you're alone, you could have then do what? I would have kissed her cheeks even more. The same thing I did in front of her father. So they try to find ways to make me accept it. And as I'm saying that, I'm getting sensation and stimulation that's sexual, to try to make you accept these things. And I know this is about control, but for me it's like, if you control me to make this video, it's okay. One thing I understand is life is life. They play this movie, they think they play this fantasy as if it's a movie. They are living life. These people will die. Death will happen for this purpose. Some of them have died doing these things to me. So I'm like, okay, well, for me, I've already accepted death. Matter of fact, I wrote a suicide letter at one point. Because I was like, these people are rewiring my brain this way. I rather die than live. They're training my brain in these pedophilia ways. So for me, it's like, okay, so you prep this? Okay, well, you are living life that is going to end. You're not a badass. You're a low-life trash working for pedos. If this is what you orchestrated, please live life orchestrating these things. And let me live this life at this time to sound so prophetic. To sound so wise. To show this wisdom that is just not even wisdom. It's just common sense that you just have removed from yourself to be involved in this program. Okay, if this is how I'm going to die soon, let me sound this wise saying the most basic things, because your dumbass have turned into a retard for the purpose of gaslighting me to accepting these things. They tell me I'm going to lose my eyes. Okay, I understand. I know that will happen. I provoke these perps who truly want you to be like, no, that pain, we mapped. You see, opportunity, you didn't have to. What are you talking about? You're a clown. Opportunity, you do the pedophilia type of torture, you torture children. This is the manipulation you're forcing me to have. Talk about me as a 12, 13-year-old, as a 13-year-old who just turned 13 to try to be like, no, if you had the opportunity to do this. What would I do if I was? They are so sad. Well, involved in a program where I clearly know they torture children, even burning genitals of children. Burning the genitals of children. Working for governmental entities where a whole freaking bill was passed in 2019 where they called it End National Defense Abuse Act because there was so much child porn. By the way, the bill is S1413. Look it up. Because in 2018, they were saying they were trafficking so much child porn that they were ranked 19th in out of 2,900 in the United States for trafficking the most child porn. I hear the testimonies of women saying, me and my young child and I, you're going to hear, are being used as test subjects. They're torturing us like these kids, babies. 4-year-old sexually tortured. There is no disorientation. There's no noise campaign that can block that. And then validation at the end of the day. That men and women saying, we are being manipulated to have this reaction toward children. I have children. I have twins. I have 4 kids. Now when I look at a kid, they force me to have sexual stimulation. I'll call this program perversion. These people around me, they do this, manipulate me, rewire my brain. And then there's this person's like, no, they're rewiring the thought process. It's part of this offensive information warfare, where they're finding what matrices and tactics to manipulate. This clown's like, we're mapping, we're just shut the fuck up, you fraudulent trash. It's like, no, look at us, we're women, we're female. It's different with us. We are obviously not manipulating trash as. Then you find out there's women saying, there's a lot of females involved in this. Target visual, stay strong. But be thankful that you are not out here making yourself this retard. That even manipulate childhood, creating this narrative of childhood to try to make you accept you, make you listen to them, try to counter what I'm saying, but for speech, to try to make you accept how you experience things today, because they're manipulating you to experience these things. They're like, no, now it's you. No, now you've made me this genius, wise human being that just said basic, normal, as just common sense as it gets, making me feel like as a wise human being. Some of them would try to mock me. It's like, oh, you're so wise. No, you just made yourself damn near retarded. I'm sorry for using the language. And they use childlike people who are on the spectrum. Now, let's start here. Okay. Watch me be wise again. Step 1. The rewiring thought process. You can listen to this person. John Hall. Somebody just said that before me. And this is where the void comes in. I know these people feel special. But John Hall, like this Perps said, is a person who says, I've talked to thousands of people all around the country. And they have almost all the same testimonies. Thousands of them. Like 1,500 or so, to be honest. And this is obviously some kind of weapon development where they are cognitively controlling human beings using this non-ionizing or whatever radiation. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a biologist. Like science, I'm not. So, but he describes it. Then you hear him talk about EEG cloning, EEG herding. Then you're going to hear somebody called Dr. Robert Duncan. This man has been talking to target visual all around the country, even the world, I think. He says that, they pipe in voices in people's brain. Once those voices start piped in, they start like manipulating thoughts. They're rewiring the thought process in the brain. And this becomes like an offensive information warfare. And they use test subjects of all cultures, of all races, and use them as as matrices of different deceptive and manipulative tactics to see what trickery works, and they try to walk these people to their death. You hear him speaking up, dude. You hear him on the podcast with this person, this target individual who's a lead. It's like the future of warfare is going to be cognitive. It's going to be cognitive warfare, where altering the mind is going to be used to break somebody down. They're going to alter the mind. Personality rebuilds. So basically change, try to make this person be somebody he's not, and break them down using that tactic. Then you're going to hear him in this book he wrote in 2014 or 15. I'm not sure exactly the date. I got to remember that. The no-touch torture, where, as I'm saying, that they even try to rewire to something else. Where where he talked to over 1,000 or so target visual, about 1,000, and almost all of them said something that shows that they have this pedophilia type of tormenting tactics. Almost all of them said that they are forcing them to have child porn imaginations of some sort in their mind to break them down. You're going to hear that. Then you're going to hear testimonies of a target individual called Mariana. Mariana, I use her the most. as testimony because she went on this channel, and very well spoken individual who described her targeting as a TI in such well spoken way. She says they are rewire my brain to even get, and they can do that. This technology, this DOD technology can do so much. They can rewire your brain to make you smell things that are not around you. But sometimes they make her smell baby powder or something with babies and do this thing called, she calls it the pedophilia type of torture. Let me repeat, the pedophilia type of torture, meaning that they make her experience something that is pedophilia centric because she smell what babies would smell like. The pedophilia type of torture. You're going to hear me use that word. Then you're going to hear this woman called Jackie, no longer with us. She's not really actually, she's a trans woman. Funny woman with a lot of personality. Funny trans woman with a lot of personality. May she rest in peace. She says there's people around me try to change who I am, putting thoughts of, she doesn't finish the word. She said, and she recognizes people around doing these things. I don't know if they're using weapons. She doesn't care about that. But she's experiencing, she just doesn't want to experience these things that they force her to experience. Then you hear this woman called Mara. This woman is a woman from North Florida somewhere. In 2007, she gave her testimonial. And she said they were doing these things to me. She's a mother. She had multiple kids. They were even targeting kids at some point. But at one point, they changed the tactics. They started giving her this reaction and stimulations. You're going to hear her say, it started off with the reaction I had toward my dog. I was petting my dog and I was getting stimulations. Then they started aiming those stimulations toward human beings, people. Starting with young people. And then children. And then homosexual. By the way, they did the same thing with me. With like, it just doesn't faze me. I don't care about that. Okay. Those are the testimonies. Now, the actual physiology, torture, and other torture, harming children. You hear Catherine saying, me and my young child, on bioethics month, bioethic in 2011, that's when it's meaning of like, about the use of human subjects, ethics and what they've done wrong, and have a meeting just to make sure that it never happens again, where things like MK Ultra ever never happen again. So in 2011, President Obama had this meeting called bioethics meeting. That was the first one, I think, in 2011. He comes and there's a bunch of people coming in, and this target individual, one of many that came that day to speak, to talk about what's happening to them, this woman called Catherine Nestor. She said, my young child and I are being used in this fashion. We're being tortured in this fashion using this technology. And it's similar to this woman called Connie Dow. You don't need to listen to her testimony, but I've put her testimony before. Then you hear again Mariana say, not only they were torturing me, but I'm a teacher and I have young children that I'm teaching. They were torturing these young children. One was 7 years old with autism. They start suffocating her, plus sexual torturing her. Two of them had Down syndrome. One 4 years old, another 5-year-old, sexually torturing them. You know what they did? They grabbed the genitals. They grabbed the genitals because they felt pain there. Another one is 3 years old. They felt pain there. And this 3-year-old boy grabbed his genitals because he was hurting there. And to give you an example of what kind of genital pain they create, they target the genitals a lot. Even for me, they've done things where I felt pain, pinpoints, like pain in my genitals. To give you an example of what kind of pain they give, you're going to listen to this woman saying how did she burn her genital torture is common. You're going to hear a lot. But her testimony is quite recent. And she says, again, this night they torture my genitals and the government is burning the private parts of my body. Okay. Imagine that applied to children. Now to finish this up, you understand that the DOD has been working on how to alter the mind since the 60s. Matter of fact, specifically DARPA, which at the time was called ARPA. had a project called Project Pandora, where they were seeing how they can manipulate the brain in the 60s, and in this channel, History Channel, they're saying, oh, by the way, this is still going. They still figure out how to alter the mind. Okay. And you have clear indication that the DoD is involved in this and only involved in this running this program. Now, about how they protect children. Apparently, the DoD has had issues with pedophilia within the rankings, within the entity. In 2018, you're going to hear DoD network was ranked 19th out of 2,900 for sharing the most trafficking, child porn trafficking. What I mean is they found out that when looking at all the child porn and coming from all the different network, the internet network, the DoD was ranked 19 out of 2019, and you're going to hear them being called top tier for child porn trafficking. So what that caused, because this is so embarrassing that the Department of Defense will be ranked that high for trafficking so much child porn, that the employees there will use the computers given to them by the Pentagon. Not only child porn, but using those computers and using the network to traffic and peer-to-peer sharing of child porn. So much so that this entity specializing in being the watchdog of child porn will rank these entities for trafficking child porn. They created a bill called End National Defense Network Abuse Act to try to limit this, because there's so much child porn. And this trash here are saying what we're doing, we're mapping you to this, to you as a child. Do you understand the audacity of the retardation these people have to be? They are low-life clowns and I pray that live life doing nothing but die and watch me suffer in whatever ways. Because I'm telling you, it's not going to take away from what they're involved in and the embarrassment they had to live with. I'm so glad I get to see them for what they are. They have made the dog barks. They've done everything possible to counter reality. I call them because they like to call it their war. I was like, yeah, you guys are the Navy SEAL of this war because they're mentally on the spectrum. Okay. So let's start with this. The obvious testimonies of this manipulation of thoughts.
My name is Dr. John Hall. I'm a medical doctor from Texas. As I understand the memorandum from the president, it's for you to determine if current legislation is adequate in protecting individuals and if there's any ongoing experimentation. In reviewing the common rule, it's very obvious that there's a lot of loopholes to informed consent. All of the horrific experiments you've mentioned, Willowbrook, MK Ultra, radiation experiments, mostly were done without informed consent. They were funded by the DoD and intelligence agencies, where I'm not even so sure you would know if there's an IRB, much less if an IRB is looking at informed consent. As a physician, relative to some of what you're hearing today, in the community, we are seeing an alarming rate of complaints of use of electromagnetic weapons, microwave auditory effects, silent sound spectrum, EEG cloning, which has taken the lab out of the laboratory and into the home. Most of these, from the research that we reviewed, can be done remotely. It seems to be more weapons research than medical research. Remotely. It seems to be more weapons research than medical research. I personally corresponded with upwards of 1,500 victims, all complaining of identical complaints from every state in the nation of being exposed to electromagnetic radiation. Non-ionizing radiation for the use of cognitive control or behavior control. I submitted a paper to you, and there's another paper submitted to each member from another physician in Kansas City, alluding to the same thing.
Act with the human nervous system in order to remotely pick up on someone's neural network or EEG, and not only receive that and monitor it, but manipulate it and place it back into the victim to control their emotions or control their actions or bodily functions, for that matter. The other more recent term we have for that is EEG heterodyning or EEG cloning. the difference between EEG heterodyning and EEG cloning would be, let's say, me remotely receiving your EEG and then duplicating it and putting that in another person to give them your same thoughts or feelings or physical reactions. EEG heterodyning would be receiving your EEG, manipulating it to put it back inside your head to give us a desired physical reaction or emotional reaction.
Voices into an individual's head. And once you can do that, you can control them using neuro-linguistic programming techniques. You're rewiring their thought processes and brains. And so this gets into what's called offensive information warfare. And they used it, I believe, in the Gulf War to tell the enemy at that time, lay down your guns, this is Allah. And it worked pretty well, because hearing voices which have no direction or sound, you have to assume that it's some spiritual entity. So it works pretty well. And then, I don't know if I'm going to get into this, but there's something called hyper game theory. How do you, they want to see if they can manipulate people to do things that are irrational, but also walk them to their death. And so you can call it a eugenics program even. And they need to sample all cultures, language throughout the world to define their probability matrices of which tricks, techniques, deception works. So how do you control a brain? Most people don't believe that. Oh, you can't control me. I have my...
That this person developed delusional disorder. This is a paranoid schizophrenia. But first of all, nobody develops paranoid schizophrenia in the 50s, in their 50s. This is, if you haven't developed it by 30, it's not. Then this technology exists. These nefarious programs exist. And it's hard to imagine for a person that, why would you do something like this? But if you think about the new type of warfare,
cognitive warfare.
Exactly, it's a cognitive warfare. You don't have to kill people that you are fighting against. You can just degrade their brain. You can
you alter their minds.
Yeah, alter their minds,
personalities.
And it's like Chinese torture. I mean,
the common breakdown tactic of belief systems and the human will. In no-touch torture, the techniques are more psychologically specialized for each target. Most common examples include homosexual targets that are forced with voices that are derogatory to their lifestyle and similar mental images. Almost all targets are forced to view child pornography in their minds.
It's referred to as malodorance. This is the alteration of the smell sensation so that I am often made to smell various things, including smoke, burning, dirty diaper, or baby powder, which they sometimes combine with the pedophilia type of torture. Highly disturbing pornographic images and videos, including highly disturbing pedophilia type of images and videos when I close my eyes.
It's dramatic. It's somebody trying to end my life. It's somebody trying to end who I am as a person. It's somebody trying to take over my mind, putting thoughts of pedophilia. It's disgusting things. You saw where I was going with that first word. Disgusting things that I don't even want to talk about because it makes me sick. I don't even like those words in my mind. But it is what it is. So I have no choice now but to acknowledge that there are people in my surroundings or whatever they're doing. I don't know how they do it. I don't care. I don't know if it's through weapons. I don't know.
Single second of my privacy that you have taken away from me and my family. Ben said the slaves began a program of perversion. First was with my dog. I am very playful with my pet, and suddenly one day that I was petting him I felt strange, in the sense of the word. I thought, this is strange, and then afterwards that strange sensation continued. Then in that moment I realized that was impost, so I thought, look at this losers, don't know how to put me down, and they are doing this. So I told them that I know what you are trying to do, and I started laughing, and then I said again out loud, you'll never take my will, ASS, so just to show them that I meant what I said, I kept playing with my dog, and even though that attacks continue, I don't let them get me. Today, they continue with the programming of perversion, but this time they are aiming in the use of people, better said young people, also children and homosexuals.
In 1965, DARPA launched Project Pandora, which studied the possibility of using microwave radiation to control human behavior. The project reportedly ended in 1969, but DARPA's investigation of how machines can affect and possibly control the brain continues to this day.
She worked for the Defense Department. She worked on the global mapping of that system. And when I told her what I was going through, all she could say was, "You're on your own." Well, I figured that out. If you would please, I urge you to pass this. I realize you can't enforce it, but if you would pass it, it might give other communities the courage to do the same thing and show our Defense Department we are not the enemy. We are not to be attacked. We are not terrorists. Most of us are defenseless women.
Days later, a female said the same thing. Don't get shot in the face. You know, stupid shit like that. But what I really noticed is, with the Voice of Skull, it's a bunch of females. You know, and I'm like, bro, really? You're not a woman. What real woman would stalk another female or sit back and allow that to go on? You really think? They think it's nothing wrong with them.
Ms. Catherine Nestor.
My name is Catherine Nestor, and I'm from Pennsylvania. This commission has spoken of a long history of abuse of the human research subject. Although no one mentioned MKUltra today, President Clinton recently apologized for this. My young child and I have been used as non-consensual test subjects. We have been subjected to COINTELPRO-like stalking, remote neural monitoring, and electromagnetic torture, resulting in psychological and physical damage. And I won't go into the details of that because I have 4 pages written in here that is very similar to Connie's testimony. Please do not wait 70 years to investigate this. I ask Dr. Amy Gutman to begin today. There is new work for the Commission for Human Subject Protection on our shores. And please give us a dramatic response, Susan.
A speech-language pathologist working in private practice with young children. I had a 7-year-old client who has autism, and she was the most significantly affected of all of my clients. I eventually had to tell this client to go to another clinic, and they used her to threaten the most torture in me as well as their most extreme forms of torture. One day I also observed her gasping for air a few times in the same way that I do when I am being more severely suffocated. The suffocation had been in a mild state for a while up until this point. Many of their torture methods are cyclical in severity. Right after I saw this child being suffocated, then I began to experience very extreme suffocation all day, every day, for about 2 months straight, and that's also when they made it worse when I eat. Then I also work with a 4-year-old little girl with Down syndrome, as well as her 5-year-old sister who also has Down syndrome. I observed both of these girls suddenly grabbing their genitals in pain and verbalizing, "ow." I observed this at least on 1 or 2 occasions for each of them during their separate sessions. And suddenly grab his crotch and lean. During one session, I observed one of my 3-year-old clients suddenly grab his crotch and lean forward in his chair. And then he made a frightening grimace of severe pain. I asked him what was wrong and if he needed to use the restroom, but he said no to having to use the restroom.
I just woke up after a pretty rough night. The same thing happened last night as the night before, which was whenever I was trying to go to sleep, the private parts of my body began being burned again in a lot of capacities of the things that I faced. So today, just kind of just feeling some pretty general fear about my own safety. Because the government's burning the private parts of my body. Sometimes it feels like a
child pornography watchdog, Internet Crimes Against Children, Child Online Protective Services. The Defense Department network consistently ranks in the top tier of Internet service providers for trafficking child pornography. It ranked 19th of nearly 3,000 networks surveyed in 2018. Meadows said the legislature
investigation for links to the proliferation of graphic material. Called Project Flicker, some 5,000 individuals have been identified as having subscriptions to child porn sites, including many DoD-affiliated persons. So this ongoing national investigation has now prompted the House to introduce a bipartisan bill that would help the DoD stop the use of its network to, quote, possess, procure, or produce child pornography. Joining us to discuss this, investigative journalist Ben Swan. So Ben, the Pentagon already takes measures to limit worker access to stuff like porn by rolling out what they call the Personal Electronic Device PED policy, where workers have to drop off their phones and lockers before entering their offices. All their online searches are accessible by security if or when needed. Their Wi-Fi access is monitored in digital security sweeps. So how is this happening?
Well, it's happening because even though there is a certain amount of limitation on access, those who are working in the Department of Defense, clearly it appears to be thousands of individuals in the Department of Defense, are finding ways around this, specifically by using the Department of Defense IP addresses and also apparently peer-to-peer sharing within the department's network. So this study that was done on this issue, and it is pretty horrifying, Manila, to consider this. It shows that the Department of Defense ranked 19th out of almost 3,000 networks in terms of peer-to-peer sharing of child pornography. That is absolutely incredible. This bill attempts to essentially say, look, we're not doing enough to stop it from coming in, but we're also not doing enough in the Department of Defense to go after those individuals who were being recognized as the ones who were perpetrating this.
So Congresswoman Abigail Spanberger is the co-author to this bill. She said this, quote, the notion that the Department of Defense's network and Pentagon-issued computers may be used to view, create, or circulate such horrifying images is a shameful disgrace and one we must fight head on. Now, the fact that the Pentagon workers, be they civil or military or otherwise, already submit to a gauntlet of daily scrutiny just going in and out of work, is it fair then to the tens of thousands who are completely innocent to further allow that much more government intrusion into their digital devices or the things that they're dealing with on their computers?
Well, remember that what's being talked about here is not an intrusion into someone's personal device or even their home. This is about saying Department of Defense computers are being misused to share, to spread, to access child pornography. And when you step into an office, whether it's a department...
Why are so many pedophiles allowed to be given top-level security clearance? Remember, these aren't just people walking in off the street and saying, hey, can I get hired? Can I get a job? You're put through an extremely rigorous background check screening process. It's called an SSBI, single scope background investigation. There are people, they interview you, they interview your family, they interview your contacts, they go through your online footprint, they go through everything. So why is it that when they're going through these footprints, they're not checking, these digital footprints, they're not checking for so many pedophiles getting through their ranks? If it were up to me, you need to go into Congress, and Congress needs to launch a brand new church committee, number one, to talk about domestic surveillance operations, but number two, to ask the question, why are there so many pedophiles sitting behind
sensitive secrets, potentially making this. The Defense Department releasing brand new details into an investigation involving child pornography and dozens of its workers and contractors, some with top-level security clearance. Not only are these very serious accusations, but investigators say some of the people involved were handling the nation's most sensitive secrets, potentially making this a matter of national security. Chief Fox Report correspondent Jonathan Hunt with the news. Appalling story, Jonathan. Do we know more about these people and their security clearances?
Well, we don't know their exact job titles, John, but what we do know is that they did appear to be working, some of them, at high levels across a range of government agencies. Take a look at this, for instance, the National Security Agency, the National Reconnaissance Office, and the very secretive Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency.
So, you have these perps trying to make you accept these manipulations, talking about your childhood and try to create these storylines and narratives and say, not you were, you did this and that, you had these opportunities and that. Well, the reality of what they involved in has been clear at every level, that they have these tactics, that they want to harm children, and that the entities running this program have these issues that you just heard. Well, they try to make you accept this retardation of logics. To all my target individual, we are rewired in ways and manipulated, and there's people, this whole ecosystem created to try to get you to accept this manipulation. They become clowns for hire. I don't think I'm any smarter than them, but I know these people are supposed to be dumb. They're dumbing themselves down for the purpose of you to accept these things. Can you imagine this level of validation? I mean, what more can one have to be validated? In every way, it's been validated. Torturing children, check. Manipulating the mind in this pedophilia type of torture, check. The entities running this program with consistent issue with child porn and pedophilia issues, check. I mean, how much more? Well, you have these clowns like, no, but if you had the opportunity, this when you were 13 years old, you could have done this and that. Oh, Jesus. Well, people are asking, why is there so many pedophiles being employed by the DOD and the CIA? To my target individuals, stay strong. I understand these people around you supposed to make you accept these things have understood their job, their task. And their sole job is to break you down and to accepting this manipulation, knowing that you're not what they're trying to paint you as, but their job is to get you to accept what they paint you as.